In this video, you're going to learn how to connect hardware to the Sunday Keys app to expand what's possible in your live performances. Connecting your keys rig together is so important. When you're counting on software as the center of your live keys rig, it's tempting to just focus on settings inside of the app and making sure everything is dialed in there. But you can't neglect the hardware either. I like to think of this as sort of a coffee filter as an analogy. If you have really high quality coffee beans, maybe you grind them, to order, and then you pour them through a used coffee filter or maybe a lower quality coffee filter. The end result is going to be determined by the last link in the chain. So when we think about a software keys rig, that coffee filter is the audio interface. And you need to be able to send a clean signal to your audio engineer. I think for many modern worship keys players who focus on layering lots of sounds together, we could take this even a step further. It's not just about sending a clean signal to your audio engineer, but also giving your engineer the flexibility and control they need to be able to fine-tune your sound in the mix. To do this, you need to be able to send multiple outputs from Sunday Keys, and you can take advantage of the feature we call flex routing to do this. You need an audio interface that has enough outputs available to support the needs of you and your band. That might be 4, 6, 8, or more outputs. For most churches, the TrackRig audio interface from Loop Community is our recommended approach. It features 8 balanced XLR outputs. That means you don't have to worry about converting from 1/4 inch to XLR or buying direct boxes on top. It connects over USB, the signal is strong, high quality, and it's just simple and easy to use. You can mount it in a rack, or you can just tuck it on the floor underneath your keys rig. It's really well built, and it's gonna last you a long time. When you have multiple outputs connected to Sunday Keys, you can send dedicated signals to give your audio engineer more control. It's a great idea to separate out your pianos and key sounds from your pads, for example, giving your audio engineer control over how ambient your sound is in the room. A lot of churches also like to separate out synth bass sounds. Some churches like to send the ARPs and sequences separately from the rest. It's all about giving you and your audio engineer control and flexibility during live performances. And if you want to use the metronome or click in Sunday Keys and send it to your band, you definitely need to isolate that out as well. It's also a good idea to send the tonic pad separately, because then anytime the mix sounds a little bit dry to your audio engineer, they can bump up the volume of tonic and fill just the right amount of space. Now, when you use the Sunday Keys app on the iPad, obviously you get a lot of benefits from the touch screen. You can grab a fader, turn on or off an effect, select a patch with just a tap. It's a great way for controlling your live key sounds. But sometimes you need to go hands-on. You want a little bit more tactile control. Or in some cases, you might want to have your hands on the keyboard and still be able to take control. That's where something like the Looptimus MIDI controller can come in really handy. I've got the Looptimus Plus and the Looptimus Mini here on top of the keyboard, so I can talk you through how these things work. Now, the Looptimus Plus connects over Bluetooth, and it's really simple to set up directly inside the Sunday Keys app. Then you just want to make sure the Looptimus is sending notes into Sunday Keys, and you can MIDI learn those to whatever you would like. The way the Looptimus is laid out is pretty simple. You have 6 numbered buttons here. In the top right corner, you have this global stop button that you can also MIDI learn inside of the Sunday Keys app. And if you want, you can also use the next and previous banks and program each unique bank to control something else inside of Sunday Keys. Let me walk you through how I've connected these controllers to the app so you get an idea of how you could get hands-on control using these awesome devices. So I have buttons 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 adjusting my snapshots. Now, snapshots in the app are awesome because they can do a bunch of things with just a button press. So as I change through these snapshots, you can see effects turning on and off, faders moving around, and then I can just create a tactile connection between those snapshots and these physical buttons. So it's really handy, and if I wanted to, I could put this at my feet, keep both hands on the keyboard, and still flow through the snapshots in my patch. I've programmed button 6 and the global stop button here in the top right corner to sort of be devoted to tempo-related things. So 6 is my tap tempo. So you can see as I press this, the tempo section in the app is being updated by those presses. So it's really handy if you ever aren't playing to a click, but you still want your delays to be in sync, for example. And then I have the global stop button programmed to turn on and off the built-in metronome. So it's kind of tucked away on the side, like in the corner of the Looptimus, so you're not going to tap that by accident as easily, but it's still always accessible because it is that global stop button. Next up, I have the Looptimus Mini connected, and this is plugged into the Looptimus Plus over a simple stereo 1/4-inch cable, so a TRS 1/4-inch cable. And it's passive. It doesn't need any additional power when it's plugged into the main Looptimus. So this gives me 3 additional buttons for each bank of the Looptimus. This is really handy for me because I have button 1 here set to previous patch and button 3 set to next patch. So with the previous and next patch buttons here on this foot switch, I could be holding down a chord, and then I could easily just hit that next button and go to the next patch. Or I could jump back in the set list just as easily. And then lastly, anytime I need a bit of ambience, I have button 2 on the Looptimus Mini set to turn on and off the tonic pad player. So anytime I need a bit of ambience, I can just hit 2, and that's going to fade in. Speaking of ambience, I've also got an expression pedal plugged into the expression port on the back of the Looptimus Plus. Now, this expression port could be MIDI learned to whatever I wanted hands-on control of inside of the Sunday Keys app. So I could connect it to the master volume, the volume of an individual sound, or the mod wheel, if I wanted to control the brightness of pads, for example. But for me, I think it's useful to be able to adjust the amount of ambience, the amount of space filled by the tonic pad on the fly. So I've got this foot switch connected to the volume of the tonic pad player. So not only could I fade the pad in and out by turning it on or off, but I could fine-tune how much ambience there is at any moment with this foot switch. It's a really handy way to be able to control how much space you're filling from the keyboard, and you could keep your hands free for playing the piano. Now, if you're happy using the touchscreen for most things, but you'd like just a little bit of control hands-free, you could also just connect the Looptimus Mini itself directly to your USB hub. It does not require the Looptimus Plus or the main Looptimus controller. You can just connect a USB cable to the hub, and then you could, for example, have previous and next patch, and then 1 extra button for tap tempo, turning the pad on and off, whatever makes the most sense to you to be able to do hands-free. So let me make this practical for you with a very relatable example. Let's say your band is playing along to a click. So you have the metronome on inside the Sunday Keys app. And of course, you need a little bit of ambience too. So we'll turn on the tonic pad. But maybe as things are going along, your band starts to lose the click a little bit. If you have something tactile that you can easily reach at a moment's notice, it's not a big deal to kill that metronome and keep playing. And then maybe, if your band just lost it for a moment, you could bring it right back in. Having controls at your feet or at your fingertips just gives you more options and confidence when it's time to perform live. Being the keys player is a big responsibility in the worship band, covering transitions, starting songs, oftentimes running the tracks and the click. Having physical controls might be just what you've been missing to help you gain confidence behind the keyboard. I'm super excited to share that we've partnered with Loop Community to offer all of this great gear directly through Sunday Sounds. You can head to sundaysounds.com right now to shop for this great hardware for delivery anywhere in the US.